Hi, I'm Marlene Jones. My friend Nikki and I are going to discuss the gross anatomy of the eye.
And I'm Niki Pickle, and we are also going to review the retina structure and function. In addition, we will give you some pointers on learning this segment of your lab book.
So let's get started.
In this lateral view of the anterior eye, we see several structures. We can start with the eyebrow, which is above the eye, the orbicularis oculi muscle, the tarsal plate, the tarsal gland, the superior palpebra, which is the upper eyelid. Here are the eyelashes, and then the inferior palpebra, which is the lower eyelid, the tarsal gland and plate again, and the orbicularis oculi muscle. In this anterior view of the eye, we will see several structures in and around the palpebra that contain sebaceous and mucus glands to lubricate the palpebra and anterior surface of the eyeball. One of the most prominent external structures of the eye is the lacrimal apparatus. It produces and drains tears. The lacrimal apparatus consists of the lacrimal gland, which is right here. That is located in the superior lateral orbit, and the ducts that drain the tears it produces. As you can see here, they drain into these lacrimal canals that end up draining into the lacrimal sac.
Hi there, Marlene Jones. As part of the gross anatomy of the eye, I am going to review the extrinsic eye muscles which move the eyeball. And we'll see that in this model here.
Okay, Marlene, can you please show us the superior rectus muscle?
The superior rectus muscle just flew off the model. It is sitting up right here at the top of the eyeball.
Okay, great. What is the location and insertion position of this muscle?
It's located in the middle of the eyeball, as I said here, and it's on the superior surface.
Great. Please tell us the actions of this muscle.
It elevates the eye and it turns the eye medially, so towards the nose.
Very good. Which cranial nerve is associated with this muscle?
This muscle is associated with the cranial nerve 3, which is the oculomotor nerve.
Awesome. Where is the origin of this muscle?
The origin of this muscle is in the common tendinous ring of the posterior orbit, so in the back side of the orbit.
Okay. And what is the insertion point?
The insertion point is the superior surface of the eye in this area.
Okay. Can you point to the inferior rectus muscle?
The inferior rectus muscle, a little difficult to see. It is at the bottom of the eyeball. It is found here in the center here of this model.
Okay. Tell us about the location of this muscle.
It's located in the middle of the inferior surface of the eyeball, so it would be down here at the bottom in the center.
Okay. Please tell us the actions of this muscle.
It depresses and rotates downward of the anterior eye, and as in you're looking down, and it turns the eye medially.
Very good. Which cranial nerve is associated with this muscle?
It's associated with the oculomotor nerve, which is cranial nerve 3.
Okay. Can you share the origin of this muscle?
Sure. It's the common tendinous ring of the posterior orbit.
Very good. What is the insertion point?
And the inferior surface of the eye, again in the middle.
Okay. Marlene, please point to the medial rectus muscle.
The medial rectus muscle is here on this side.
Okay. What is the location of this muscle?
It is on the medial side of the eye, closest to the nose, and it is right in this location, in the center.
Please tell us the actions of this muscle.
It moves the eye medially towards the nose, so inward.
Okay. Where is the cranial nerve? Which cranial nerve is associated with the muscle?
This one is also associated with the cranial nerve 3.
Okay. Where is the origin of this muscle?
The origin of this muscle is the same again, the common tendinous ring of the posterior orbit.
Okay. And what is the insertion point?
The medial surface of the eye, right here.
Okay. Can you show us the lateral rectus muscle?
Yeah. The lateral rectus muscle is right here. It breaks away from this model.
Okay. What is the location of this muscle?
It's located on the lateral side, so this outer side here.
What are the actions of this muscle?
It pulls the anterior eye laterally towards the temple, so out this way,
Okay.
laterally.
Which cranial nerve is associated with this muscle?
This one is with cranial nerve 6, the abducens nerve.
All right. How about the origin of this muscle?
The origin of the muscle is exactly the same as the last 4 that we discussed, the common tendinous ring of the posterior orbit,
Okay. And what is the insertion point?
the lateral surface of the eye, right here.
Okay, now let's talk about the superior oblique muscle. Can you point to it?
The superior oblique muscle, let me pull this, the superior muscle, is right here in this model.
What is the location of this muscle?
It is the above the eyeball at the superior orbit
Good.
in this area.
What are the actions of this muscle?
This muscle does a lot. It pulls and helps rotate the anterior eye inferiorly and laterally, like when the left eye rolls to the left and down. The trochlea, which is right here, causes this muscle to rotate the eye inferiorly and laterally instead of superiorly and medially, like the superior rectus muscle. The trochlea means pulley. That's what this is right here. And it is a fibrocartilaginous structure.
Good. Which cranial nerve is associated with this muscle?
It is associated with the trochlear nerve, CN4,
Okay. And where is the origin of this muscle?
the posterior orbit. So, right here, back here.
Good. And what is the insertion point?
The insertion point is the superior lateral area, right here.
All right. Now let's talk about the inferior oblique muscle. Can you point to it?
The inferior oblique muscle is difficult to show on this model. I can tell you that it's below the eyeball, around the bottom or the inferior orbit.
Okay, great. That's the location of it. Now, what are the actions of this muscle?
It pulls and helps rotate the anterior eye superiorly and laterally, like when the left eye rolls to the left and up.
Okay. Which cranial nerve is associated with this muscle?
It is associated with the cranial nerve 3, the oculomotor nerve.
Great. Where is the origin of this muscle?
At the maxilla, just inside the anterior portion of the orbit.
And the insertion point?
Inferior lateral surface of the eye. I think that's all of our muscles. One of the ways that I learned the extrinsic muscles was to look for commonalities. For example, you heard me say several times that the nerves associated with these muscles was the cranial nerve 3. So there were several that are associated with 4 of them. So you only really have to learn 2 cranial nerves because the other 4 remain as the cranial nerve 3. Additionally, the common tendinous ring of the posterior orbit was 4 of the 6, or where they originated. So that is another way you can just accept that as one of the answers to the origination point, and then just learn the other 2. The names of the muscles and their locations are typically similar to where they are. So, for example, we're looking at superior, we're looking at lateral, we're looking at medial, and they all have the same name. So that's a really simple way to remember all of these nerves and their origins, their insertion points, and their cranial nerves.
Hi, I'm Niki Pickle, and I'm going to review more of the gross anatomy of the eye.
Niki, can you please name the 3 distinct tissue layers or tunics of the eyeball?
I sure can. The outermost layer of the eyeball is the fibrous tunic. It consists of mostly dense, irregular, collagenous connective tissue. It is also avascular, which means it lacks a blood supply and consists of 2 parts. The first is the sclera. It is the white part of the eyeball, and it makes up the posterior 5/6 of the fibrous tunic. Next is the cornea. The cornea is clear and makes up the interior 1/6 of the fibrous tunic. It is the 4th refractory medium of the eyeball.
Niki, can you point to the sclera and the cornea?
I sure can. The sclera is this white outer layer right here, and the cornea is this outermost layer of the eye.
Great. What's the next tunic? What's the next layer?
The vascular tunic is next. It is also called the uvea. It carries most of the blood supply to the tissues of the eye. It is composed of three main parts. The choroid, which makes up the posterior part of the vascular tunic, it is brown in color to prevent light scattering in the eye. The ciliary body, it is located at the anterior aspect of the vascular tunic, made mostly of smooth muscle fibers that control the shape of the lens. The ciliary body produces aqueous humor. The iris is the third part. It is pigment and is the most anterior portion of the vascular tunic. It consists of muscle fibers arranged around the pupil.
Can you tell us where the pupil is and the iris?
I sure can. The pupil is right here in the middle of the cornea, and the iris is the colored part of the eye.
Can you also show us the choroid and the ciliary body?
I sure can. The ciliary body is right here, this little pink tissue right here, and the choroid is the middle pink layer of the eye.
And where's the retina?
The retina is all of this right here in the middle.
Can you show us the optic nerve?
The optic nerve is right here. It's the nerve that leads into the eye.
Do you know which optic nerve, which cranial nerve that is?
That is cranial nerve 2.
Perfect.
It took a while to remember all of the areas, structures, and layers of the eye. The way I learned the eye was to take it in segments. I started with the anterior cavity because it contained many of the familiar structures like the cornea, pupil, and iris. I then moved to the external layers. Finally, I moved to learning about the structure and function of the retina because it has more elements to it. We will conclude our presentation with the structure and function of the retina.
As we look more closely at the retina structure and function, we can talk about the sensory tunic. It consists of the retina and the optic nerve. The retina, defined as a thin, delicate structure that contains 3 layers of neurons, photoreceptors called rods and cones that detect light, bipolar neurons that receive input from photoreceptors, and ganglion cells whose axons converge to form the optic nerve, or cranial nerve 2. The input is eventually delivered to the visual cortex in the occipital lobe of the brain.
Okay, I'm going to talk about the function and structure of the retina. This first layer is the retinal ganglion cells, bipolar cells, cones and rods. Do have the pigment layer of the retina and the choroid. The cones and rods, are the photoreceptors that are scattered throughout the retina and are responsible for vision in dim light and for peripheral vision. The cones are the second type of photoreceptors concentrated at the posterior portion of the retina. They are found in the highest number in all the area called macula lutea. This is the little notch, the macula lutea. Here it is. At the center of the macula lutea is the fovea centralis, which contains only cones. Cones are responsible for the color and high acuity, which also means sharp vision and bright light.
This concludes our presentation. Thanks for watching.